Welcome to Interactive Friction, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Brandon Lee Carey. Joining me is professional fire starter Samuel Callahan.
Yeah, see, you're much better at this than me. And right now we're just going to be looking at some quick upgrades. So I'm just going to go ahead and get Study Shot just because that makes the bow aim better. Aim better. Just means it's more accurate and it doesn't flinch or anything when you hold it out. And then I'm going to also get the bow upgrade for more damage.
And I think there's something that we can talk about with the upgrade system. And one of the things that people comment on a lot in this game, and somewhat rightfully so, is that it seems that salvage is a very nebulous term.
Yeah.
Because you're not collecting salvage parts to upgrade your stuff, and it's never entirely clear like what salvage is exactly. Because apparently the same materials that can make a wooden upgrade for a bow can make a silencer for a handgun.
Yeah, it seems like the kind of thing where, like, if this was a regular shooter, it'd be like, money!
Yeah.
It'd be like, yeah, you spend money to get these parts, but in this one they had to come up with some kind of thematic reason for having upgrades, which, to be fair, the upgrade system is really good. I like how it works a lot. But you're right in the sense that, like, what the hell is salvage? Are she collecting parts of guns and then, like, deconstructing and rebuilding them with these parts?
Well, you need weapon parts to unlock the next tiers of upgrades, so it's not exactly like weapon parts because you already have a weapon parts you're collecting.
Except you are collecting weapon parts, so like you're getting an extended magazine or like a different slide, but it's like stuff where you'd have to like build the gun again. It's really weird. Also, just since we
it's something you just kind of have to accept as like a conceit of the game, but it's just something worth talking about, I suppose.
Also, since we just now got them, we have all the outfits that... I think some of these were in the game, and most of them were DLC, if I remember correctly. They might have all been DLC.
Yeah, I think they were all DLC, actually. I remember I played the base game. I don't think it had any outfits.
Okay. Well, these are pretty cool. They're just, like... none of them are, like, overtly sexual or anything like that. They're all just different looks.
Isn't it amazing that we have to point out that's a good thing, that not all of them are overly sexual?
Well, it's one of those things of like, I was even just looking at Gravity Rush yesterday on the Vita, and I was like, I wonder what DLC's out there, and it's like the maid outfit, and it's like, of course there's a maid outfit in a cat suit.
Of course, Japan.
Yeah, so it's the kind of thing where I'm really glad that like you look at this outfit, and it's like, yes, she's just wearing a puffy vest and long sleeves, like it's regular.
Something that she's wearing a mountain outfit.
Yeah, and the other ones are like a demolition outfit, and what are the other ones I'm trying to think of? There's archery outfit, there is a gorilla one, which just gives her like a, what is it I'm looking for, like a sort of Kevlar vest. And there's one that dresses up in camo. But like none of them are like, you know, anything stupid or anything like that, and all of them are, you know, none of them are revealing in any way.
Are they all cosmetic, or do they have gameplay benefits?
They're all cosmetic.
That's good.
So, this kind of brings me up to another funny point, which is, do you ever, I think we've talked about like outfits a bit on the Texture Pop podcast, which you should listen to if you haven't.
Yeah.
But at one point I believe Chris was talking about how his character in Saints Row always wore the same outfit, and then it kind of made me think like, I like to actually roleplay a character in the sense that I'll put them in a certain outfit for particular situations. So like, since I played this game so many times, I remember it front to back. Now that I know that we're going up to the mountain base, I generally put on the Mountaineer outfit. Because it's like, yeah, it's going to be cold. Put on some more clothes.
I do that sometimes, and sometimes I won't. It depends on like what kind of game I'm playing, and like
just like how much effort you have to put in to change outfits and stuff.
Yeah, and like what mood I'm in at the time. Like sometimes I'll just not bother changing outfits because I feel like that. Oftentimes I won't, but sometimes I will. Because most of the time I'm thinking that's the design, that's the original design that the creator intended to have.
Right. And
for the character. So that's the one that I want to use because that's their vision of what they want. But sometimes I'll just change the outfit because the addition outfit's garbage, or if it makes more sense to have a different outfit, I will change it.
Jesus. God, this game's kind of
like
hard.
One example is in Ratchet and Clank. Actually, like the upgradable armors, the last armor, basically completely like covers up the face. So when you see any of the characters in the cutscenes, there's no facial animation because it's just the armor covering it.
Oh, that's funny. Is it kind
So
of like
I will
the
often-
deadlocked one? Is that what it looks like?
Yes.
Yeah.
So often I will like equip one of the costumes, like a tuxedo costume, because it shows you the face.
Yeah.
So
you
I
do
can
have
at least
problems
have
like
that part of. So I can have that part of the game at least.
Yeah. That,
And they
that-
fixed that in some of the later games by having it so the armor has the helmet that pops off like Isaac Clarke's does in Dead Space.
Yeah. Or just
Except
know,
the way
just
that's
have
a-
a model that doesn't have the helmet for cutscenes. Like it's not that hard.
Yeah.
I don't know
Well,
why I didn't
yeah, that's
see
what
this the
Effective
first time.
does. Is that it lets them remove the helmet during cutscenes.
So yeah, talking about the combat for a little bit, because we're going to be doing a lot of it, and I'm sure we're going to run out of material soon enough, is
Yeah.
it does do the great thing that Uncharted kind of flirted with, but only in specific areas of like, or I guess Far Cry actually does this pretty well, in the sense that you can come up on most any group of enemies, and most of the time they won't know you're there, so if you're careful, you can
Yeah.
stealth it, but if you get caught, it just changes the dynamic of the combat, but it doesn't like fail you or
Although
anything like that.
if you were caught, unlike in Far Cry, if you get caught, there is no going back into stealth. You have
Right.
basically forfeited your chance at getting stealth kills at that point from that point forward.
Right.
So in that case, it's not great, but it is still a very like the combat scenarios themselves are pretty well designed, and if you are skilled enough, you can stealth most of them.
Yeah, I if anything, I might say I actually kind of like the idea of once you fail the stealth, you have to do the combat. Although it's funny because that almost makes it sound like the combat is a punishment, but it's like fucking amazing.
But it's
in this
really
game.
fun to fight.
It's really good. Which is
Yeah.
almost kind of detrimental to Laura's character, but it's like I'm really glad they didn't purposely design shitty combat. Which I believe we talked about
The
that in
thing
like
I
a
like-
podcast when she first got the pistol, how we threw around ideas of like how the pistol could have been super swimmy or something. But it's like at
Yeah.
some point you're just making the gameplay worse and you can still kind of wring out the same story elements from it.
And I like this scene with her shimmying up the rock wall.
It's very much a thing that someone like her would know how to do and someone like me would not.
Yeah.
Oh man.
See, it just shows you that even though she is a lot weaker than the enemy she's fighting up against, she's not completely helpless.
Also, I like how Roth is doing the traditional Lara Croft dual-wielding pistol thing.
Yeah.
Which is kind of ridiculous when you think about it, because you can't really fire pistols like that all that accurately. Unless you're just really, really good at using handguns.
Yeah, they even tried that on Mythbusters, because those guys actually know how to use guns fairly well, and they just could not get
Like
guns
shot
akimbo
range.
working for them that well.
Yeah, it's someone who has held a single gun and had enough trouble getting accurate with that. Holding two seems like a nightmare.
Wolves took my food pack. The transmitter from the lifeboat's in it. We don't get
Yeah.
we're not getting off this boat.
Also, if
But
remember-
I do...
Sorry,
This is also a pretty nice scene between Ross and
Roth.
Roth and Laura. How he's sick, so he has to hide in the campfire, while Laura is the one that has to get the medicine. They take him out of commission so that she can basically
Yeah.
save the day for a little bit.
Yeah,
Even though, by all rights, he would probably be the person more likely to help to save her in like any other situation.
yeah. Well, at this point, she has like little to no experience.
Yeah.
But that's actually ties into what I was going to mention, which is for a linear story all about getting through this, at least until at the halfway point where Laura has her extreme change into just like, almost like bloodthirsty, one might say. For like the first half, they actually come up with some pretty great reasons back to back to back about why she continues on. Like they could have just
And
been
why
like, it's a
she's the
video
one
game.
that
She
has
was-
to continue on.
Yeah, like they could have just so easily been like, it's a video game. She moves on because that's what the player wants to do. But they always seem to come up with good story reasons for why she's continued to move in a specific direction.
Yeah, like for her, like for right now, this Roth is in a really bad situation, and she's the only one around who can,
Yeah.
at all, get the medical supplies that they need to help him.
And then even after you get them, he has to, I believe it's when you fix the radio and they were like, alright, well we need to go up to that tower. And she's like, I can't do it. He's like, well, I can't do
Yeah.
it. My leg is fucked. So it's like, of course,
Yeah, and-
then you're the one who has to go to that specific area to activate the next part of the game. But
Yeah.
it makes sense, which is what's so great about it. It all works.
But yeah, like there's no bullshit like with Hoyt in Far Cry 3. Like she has to keep going because there's literally no other alternative.
Yeah. Right. keep thinking I have the fucking lighter on me, but I don't. Anyway, I'm gonna try not to do
And you
too
don't
much
ha-
collecting.
you don't have the climbing axe either.
Yeah, I thought I did. I thought that was what he gives you, but that's after this. He gives you that.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna try to do too much like side collecting, but I do want to do just enough to make sure we have plenty of salvage to keep upgrading our stuff. Make this
Yeah.
as easy as possible for me.
Fortunately, this game doesn't really get too hard,
No.
especially if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, this being my third run through, I should know, but we should be fine. And then this
Yeah.
is these we will be able to break with shotguns later on. And this is the Ambassador, which was back when the island was first used? Or no, this was the World War II guy that you keep coming
Yeah.
up on. Because there's like, it's like the same guy multiple times, if I remember correctly.
You get a lot of interesting like logs from people who were on this island before.
God, this game is just fascinating. Anyway, trying to remember where the Wolves Den is. There it is. You got my awesome detective vision.
Yeah.
And can we already climb?
It's survivor instinct.
Oh yes. Excuse me.
It's a way to show the kind of hidden power that Laura has that she does not aware of.
It's kind of dumb, is what it is.
You don't know, well, she doesn't know she's an Assassin's Creed protagonist.
Oh yes, she's in the Animus.
Except she's better than all of them combined.
Also, it's, you know, we talked about how much we love the gunplay in this game, but I also think the platforming is a great mix of like, it is very much
Yeah.
Uncharted, where it's like
As
it's
someone
not-
who
it's
loves
not-
Uncharted, I was very much I was really happy with this.
Yeah.
It's really well done.
and it's the kind of thing where like it's not really that complicated. Like they
Yeah.
have the X grip button as like their one little twist, but it just looks cool, and it's a much more fun way of getting around the environment than just walking forward.
I love that they had that twist of you having to hit the grip button just to get a little, just to make sure that you're okay, because that's a very little subtle thing, but it does make sure you're paying attention as you platform.
Yep. I like how Laura automatically grabs
It
the light
just
when
kind
she
of
goes in the
also
cave.
emphasizes how dangerous what Laura is doing, because in real life you don't have iron grip. You can definitely fall if you're not careful.
I do like some of the more subtle things, like when you first try to enter the cave, Laura just automatically picks up the light, and when the wolf first shows up, she immediately takes out her pistol. Like,
Yeah.
I think those are pretty good as far as just subtle character things. And just picks up stuff, and then we're gonna get attacked. It's always a great time. The only thing that
course.
seems kind of weird is that she doesn't run any faster, and I'm not really sure if that's because she's not trying to make noise. But she just kind of goes very carefully through, and you're kind of like, I would be running.
She's probably trying not to alert anything.
Yeah.
Trying to keep the status quo.
And then giant-ass wolf attacks you, because these things are fucking massive.
Yeah.
And you shiv it to death, because wolves.
Yeah, you should not be able to fit a whole leg into a wolf's mouth.
Yeah. At least not as far as I've seen. Also, for someone who got bit by a wolf, saying that was close, he's like
Also-
shucking it off quite a bit.
They usually aren't that rabid.
Wolves?
Yeah.
I don't know. That seems like such a movie wolf thing. I don't
Yeah.
know that much about actual wolves. I don't know how long have these wolves been like kicked around
Typically,
for years by
typically,
the other guys?
if humans and wolves are in the same area, wolves will just walk away because it's not worth the time.
Well, I do wonder if that's like if the wolves have changed based on the guys who have been here, and they become
I
aggressive.
suppose
towards
if
humans.
they're like starving
Yeah,
because they've been driven out, that's possible. I suppose.
I don't know. I'm just being defensive Tomb Raider. Is what I'm doing.
Ecology, guys.
Just, yeah, animals and shit.
Let's get you patched up.
Alright. It's kind of, this is so different from Far Cry 3, because with Far Cry 3, I could always come up with something stupid to talk about the game, just some problem.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm talking less just because it'd be just me gushing, going like, this scene is great, this scene is great.
But again, this scene is
It's great!
pretty good.
It's pretty great. Yeah, things
Like,
will definitely get a little more
Unlike
active.
Far Cry 3, like, Laura doesn't really do a whole lot of stupid shit in this game.
She acts like a normal person. And I think that really shows with, like, Rihanna Pratchett's writing. Like, I've seen some of her other stuff,
Yeah.
and she definitely knows how to write a pretty good character.
Like, it's not perfect, and later on in the game we'll start talking into a bit more of the criticisms, so they don't really show themselves until after the first act.
Broken bottle.
Yeah.
But
But
the
there's-
first act is one of the best parts of the game.
Yeah, but the thing with the writing is that there's a lot of subtlety that just never existed in Far Cry 3.
Plan is to take that up
Like,
to
you know,
the
when
tower.
she was just talking about, like, you know, wolves and broken bottles working late, she's like, oh, okay, so Laura had a job, and, you know, she knows how to, that's how she knows how to fix people up, because people would often cut themselves on broken bottles. It's like, you know, with Far Cry 3, you'd just be like, how do you know how to fucking take bullets out of your arms? I don't know, I'm just Jason Brody. It's just
He has a
weird-
magic tattoo that makes him the ultimate warrior.
But it's just so different of just like how
Yeah.
action, like schlocky action movie
Like,
Far Cry 3 is compared to how action.
She knows how to fight because Roth taught her, because, you know, something bad might happen on a voyage.
Don't know it yet.
Like, that is a very important detail to know.
And this is where we get the cutscene that a lot of people talk about, where she says, "I'm
Yeah.
not a Croft."
I'm not that kind of Croft.
Right. So all the Crofts are adventurers.
And that's the thing where that Roth thinks that she has the potential to be great, and she's not entirely sure that she has that kind of ability to survive in this area yet.
Yeah.
Despite already have killed about 10 people at this point.
Yeah, which, you know, that goes back to our earlier gun conversation. Imagine if she had not killed anyone up to that point, but just the wolves
Yeah,
and the
this would
animals,
feel a
that
lot
would-
stronger.
Yeah, that would be a lot more of like, dude, she might actually have to fight someone now, which would be crazy at this point.
Of course, then there is that part later in the game where she starts saying, she starts talking about how it's just disgustingly easy for her to start killing people.
Yeah. I feel like while I'm just climbing up here, because I don't believe there's much going on for the climb, even though it's really cool to see the environment change. You've seen the trailer for Rise of the Tomb Raider, correct?
Yes.
I was like, you want to talk about that for a bit? While we're just walking around.
Sure. What did you think of it?
I thought it was pretty good, and I've seen it twice, and if I remember correctly, and this could be just, you know, me looking into it odd or just the wrong way, but it seemed to me like the idea behind it was Laura is suffering from some kind of PTSD from the shit sea scene.
Which, to be fair, most people would.
Yeah, and I, like, assuming that is the case, you know, again, it would definitely go against the standard people want the really strong Lara Croft, but, you
And
know,
that's
in
a
the
very mature way of tackling what this character, and I like that.
Oh, I forgot there's an optional tomb here, so we can hit the first of these.
Kind of container.
Yeah. Because this is something that's actually really cool to talk about, are these tombs.
Yeah. But yeah, with
I
Rise...
mean, we've been talking about whether or not we're going to do them all or not, but I still think they're worth doing just to show off the puzzle design in
Yeah,
this
there's
game.
only a couple of them. They're all completely different.
And
which-
they're all fairly short.
Yeah, they're just a couple minutes apiece, maybe like 10, 15 at the most. But, yeah, they're
Yeah.
certainly interesting just because a lot of people have complained that this game doesn't have, like, any actual puzzle elements, but as someone who is horrendous at puzzle games, like, is terrified of playing something like the Talos Principle because I'll get stuck, I'm so glad these are optional. Because it's just like,
Yeah.
I can still play the game and have a fun action time, but if I want to think for a little bit and kind of sit there staring at a puzzle, I can if I want.
But these are all really well-designed puzzles, I found.
Yeah, I was able to solve all of them without too much trouble.
Yeah.
Rex, all those climbs.
And, like, it's... Puzzle design is something that's very hard to get right.
Living here.
Because you want it so that the basic gimmick of the puzzle is something that can be figured out by the majority of people fairly easily. But you also don't want to spoon-feed it to them because it'll make them look stupid. You don't want them to feel stupid because they couldn't figure out your puzzle. You want them to think, oh, man, I am really good at solving this puzzle and I'm so smart.
Yeah.
And that's something that is very hard to get right. Like, and this game, I feel like it got this mostly right. There are a couple I felt were like a little too easy, but
Yeah, for you maybe. For me, they were all
Like-
just right, but that's where it comes back to, like, I am horrible at puzzle games.
No record of these
like Portal was like another game that got that like really right in its design. Like,
from the text.
it's not easy to make these puzzles that are ostensibly easy but feel like they take a lot of brain power. That is a very hard thing to get right.
Alright, and we're
It's
burning
like-
bodies. Well, corpses, any rate.
Yeah. And like you see this room, you step on that platform, and you automatically, like, since you jumped on it, it drops. You know, oh man, the weight on this platform has something to do with how high or how low it drops.
Right.
This is basically a large pressure plate.
Alright, first puzzle done. Anyway, I was trying to think if... trying to remember what else. Okay, so that's the end of that. Super
Yeah.
easy, first one. And then
Yeah.
there's the funny part where, like, Laura looks at all this stuff, and I guess it makes sense that she
See?
wouldn't grab all of it, but it's...
And you feel smart for solving that puzzle.
Sure. A little less so my fourth time around, but yes, the first time,
Yeah.
yes.
Gasp
I-
of awe.
And I do find it interesting, like, this is a good way to talk about the two different kinds of Laura, whereas the Laura of old would have just grabbed as much shit as possible and been like, yeah, I'm just gonna get all this and have this crazy collection, whereas it seems like the new type of Laura is the one that grabs, like, the most interesting little trinket and goes, I'm gonna study this. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
it's a very different type of character at this point.
It does still feel a little odd, though, is that in all the other collectibles you have this concrete, oh, I got this mask,
Yeah.
or oh, I got this little thing, but in the treasures, it's a bit more nebulous in what you're getting, and it's still kind of weird how you solve this puzzle in this ancient tomb and you get a machine gun part.
Yeah. You're right, though, that I didn't think much about that, but it would have been pretty interesting if, because none of the stuff that you pick up, as far as, like, just the random stuff you find, is, like, amazingly intricate or anything, so it'd be pretty cool if you raid the tombs and you get, like, jewels or, like, something that looks really ornate,
Yeah.
like a golden mask, or just something that, like, you would only see in a locked chest.
Yeah, or like maybe that could be part of some like grand collection quest. Like you get all the tombs, you get all the treasures in the tomb, and you unlock some big secret in the island.
Yeah. So anyway, Rise of the Tomb Raider.
And we're getting close to time. We're like 22 minutes in.
Alright, you want to wrap up with some of your thoughts on Rise of the Tomb Raider? Because I am fucking stoked. And I hope that
I am excited as hell. And although I don't have an Xbox One, so I can't really play because I have a PS4.
I forgot about that, like the timed exclusivity thing.
And it's probably going to, if Microsoft Studios is publishing, it's probably going to come to PC, which means they're either going to just eat shit and buy an Xbox One or eat shit and buy an upgraded PC.
Considering your laptop does not run without a power cord, you might want to do the latter.
Yeah, I'm thinking more the latter because it'll be in the long run a better investment for me.
Yeah,
But yeah, as for the game itself, I hope it does well because I want to see more of this new Lara Croft and
Yeah.
less of the old one.
Yeah. I never thought the old one was like anything like people got so excited I think for like the platforming, but Laura never seemed like such a great character in the older games to me.
It's weird because like I've never liked that Tomb Raider, so like it's hard for me to say that I'm not, because the person who should talk about how good or bad a reboot is should probably be someone who liked the original one. And it's weird because this is the kind of game where like the old Tomb Raider fans don't seem to like it all that much.
Yeah.
Whereas people like me who've only had at most a passing interest in the franchise really seem to be enjoying the game, and I'm not entirely sure whether that's a good or a bad thing.
Well, I think it just depends on like what you wanted out of it. I like the biggest complaint I've heard about this game is that it's not much of a Tomb Raider game. It's a bit more generic action like Uncharted. But I would be the one to argue it's so finely tuned and it still has its own character.
That's a strange argument because Uncharted was inspired largely by Tomb Raider in how it played.
But they referred mostly to
so
like the
it's
lack
like
of
this-
puzzles and things like that.
And there's this circular logic where Tomb Raider inspired Uncharted, and now Uncharted inspiring Tomb Raider.
Yeah. Personally, I think it worked out for the best. You know, it's like it's not the puzzle style game that was before, and the platforming's definitely a lot nicer or a lot easier, I might say, than the older one. But I think that's for the best. And I still think it's got like its own sort of identity. At least this first one. We'll have to see with the second if it becomes anything as interesting.
And it's really fun. Like all the platforming is just it's fun.
Yeah. Like, it's funny that I've heard people say, you know, the platforming is so simplified, but I also remember hearing complaints about the old Tomb Raider where it's like the platforming is like really hard, and it's like, well, what
I
should you
found
want?
I tried a demo of like I remember way back when I was a child. I tried playing the old Tomb Raider games. And I just found the controls to be irritating.
Doesn't that game
Like,
have
I
like
found-
tank controls? At least the first one.
It did, and I found even a child, I found tank controls to be supremely irritating.
Yeah, I really don't see why you'd have them.
Yeah.
Well, scramble. Anyway, let's get this conversation and we'll be done for this episode. I guess... Shit! I was gonna say, the last thing I'd probably like to mention is I do love, a lot of, like, the dialogue that the guys shout out when you're fighting. You know, say things like, she's over there! Or I remember when I was playing this setting up for this season, about a week ago now. There was a bit of dialogue when I was in the shantytown later on where one of the guys was like, how can we not get her? She's just a girl. And another guy
Dear
shouted...
God,
Well, there's another
Those-
guy who shouted like, well, this girl is kicking your ass. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of the thing. Is it like...
and like I just saw that bow animation like a minute ago, and it's like that is fucking brutal. Like the stealth kills in these games.
Yeah.
Like she is basically taking the bow and using it like a garrote.
Yeah. It's pretty messed up.
Yeah.
Anyway, these environments are beautiful, and we'll have to see you in the next episode of Interactive Friction, because we're going to the top of
night.
that tower.
Good night, guys.